Since the dawn of time, a bloody war is going on between the speed and the efficiency of the economy pickers and the precision and the control of the alternate pickers. The end was near, and then something happened. The power of the sweep was underestimated. All hope was lost. But then, on the horizon, one man appeared to save the day and end this war. Beauty. Practice your pick slanting. And nothing else. Shredders! Graham. Hey Guitar Champion, what's going on? I'm Justin von Bach, back from my practice cave, and welcome to today's video. Often when I talk about practicing my speed picking skills, my alternate picking skills, some people sometimes ask me, hey, why don't you just use economy picking? Economy picking is so much easier and you can be so much faster with it. And then sometimes I have to disagree a little bit with. And therefore, to explain it a little bit more deeper, I wanted to make this video, which is long overdue. Alternate picking versus economy picking. Who wins? For me, it's alternate picking. And why? We're going to find out in today's video. So before we begin, of course, the thumbnail and the intro is only just a joke. So please don't take this too seriously. So but first we should elaborate the definition of those two terms, alternate picking and economy picking. And I think alternate picking is quite self-explaining. This means that we are always alternating between two pick directions that we have, downstroke and upstroke. And after each downstroke always comes an upstroke, and vice versa. After each upstroke always comes a downstroke. So now when it comes to economy picking, it is a little bit more complex, difficult, and I would say there are different kind of interpretations of this kind of term. Often we see economy picking as something where when we are going from one string to the next string, we're using the same pick direction. For example, when we are playing down, up, down on one string, like for example the A string, we will also start down, up, down on the D string. And to do this smoothly, we have to use the sweeping technique. And the basic core for me, and I've mentioned it in the last video as well, for the sweeping movement is the so-called rest stroke, that we are landing on the next string before we are hitting it. And with this kind of technique, we can gain enough force to sweep through the strings. Now when we're talking about sweeping, often we're referring it to kind of more arpeggio kind of playing, and economy picking is a little bit more kind of in a scale situation, but the movement itself that is happening in our right hand and our wrist to go from one string to the next string is the same. Down, up, down with the rest stroke and then moving on to the next string. So for example, don't confuse it with the picking that gypsy jazz players have. They also use down, up, down, but after their last downstroke to go from one string to the next string, they always have the tip of the pick free in the air, which is happening through the way how they are holding their pick. So their down, up, down looks more like this: down, up, down, down, up, down. They have this extra movement in their playing. So again, rest stroke is important to define sweeping, and sweeping movement is for me the same like in economy, but in economy picking we have it a little bit more in a scalar kind of system. Secondly, I want to talk a little bit about my personal experience with economy picking versus alternate picking, because this video here is based on more of my experience, so you can totally have a different opinion. That's absolutely fine, or a different experience maybe. I want to share my experience here and why I tend to use alternate picking more than economy picking. Now, I actually used to practice a lot of economy picking back in the day. From 2014 to 2019, I was obsessed with this technique. I was studying all the books from Frank Gambale, Gambale licks, Gambale transcriptions, and then of course piano transcriptions or saxophone transcriptions and solos and licks and whatnots. For these kind of styles, economy picking was my way to go to be able to play those kind of licks and musical ideas. But I also realized in that time that my alternate picking was always kind of really weird and really weak. And I felt it especially when it comes to two things: the rhythm guitar and the control that I had while playing. Because often when I was improvising something, it was just my right hand was just doing something, but I didn't know what it does. I didn't have an awareness of what is happening in my right hand if I'm using economy picking, alternate picking, all this kind of stuff. And then of course the rhythm guitar, when I have to play some extreme metal stuff, therefore I sometimes more kind of cheated my way with economy picking instead of just working on my alternate picking. Economy picking was often an excuse for me to not work on the alternate picking, but rather saying, I will play with economy picking. But this kind of method does not really fix certain problems, as I'm going to talk about this later in this video. Everything that I played felt kind of weird and without control. And I started to fix this in 2018, where I started to focus a little bit more on my alternate picking. And especially in the years 2020 and 2021, while I was working on the ZEN of Speed Picking, my big online masterclass about speed picking, where I also shared a lot of this new knowledge that I gained through those years, I really focused on my alternate picking, on my pick slanting, that everything is kind of nice, precise, that the hand synchronization is not often, that I knew what I was doing here. I was creating an awareness in my right hand. And then we're coming to the first point, which for me leads nowadays more for the alternate picking kind of camp instead of the economy picking camp. And this is through that knowledge that I gained, the awareness about my right hand, my playing overall developed so much more and was getting so much better, because now I gained control over my right hand. Now I know up to 80% what I'm doing here. But on the other hand, playing certain licks gets harder, because I have to be more aware of certain movements in my wrist, pronation and supination movement for pick slanting, what my thumb is doing and how my thumb can help my wrist movement and all this kind of stuff. And in the end, through this knowledge and this awareness, I also got more freedom in my right hand. With economy picking, you have certain limitations and you're a little bit more fixed on how many notes you have on a certain string. For example, when you want to play in a certain direction, you always need an uneven number of notes per string. If you want to change this direction, you need an even number of notes of strings. So you are pretty controlled by the lick and the line itself, and therefore you can lose a lot of freedom again. The next thing that I experienced, the control over rhythm and subdivision. I experienced that especially in the last couple of weeks, where I tried to learn the famous intro arpeggio section from Dream Theater's The Glass Prison. Now there are two ways how you can play it. You can sweep those arpeggios or you can alternate pick them. And believe me, alternate picking these arpeggios is one of the hardest things that I've ever played so far. And there are not many people out there who can play these arpeggios. Either way, it's extremely sloppy because the people are just moving their arm really fast. So you have notes that are double picked, a phenomenon that is happening quite often when it comes to alternate picking, that you actually intend to only pick a note once, but you're moving your arm so fast and you have no flexibility in your wrist that you accidentally hit it twice. This was something that I've seen a lot in certain covers, especially by people who are claiming that they could play it faster than Petrucci. Yeah, fast, but super sloppy. Or the super tight and precise, but not the original tempo, like the Martin Miller and the Rick Graham cover back from, I don't know, early 2010s. They are super precise, but like on 70 or 80% of the original tempo. I only saw two covers. One was from a German guy that I don't remember the name of right now, which I'm really sad, and Andy Wood. Andy Wood made a really incredible cover of it. So playing these arpeggios with alternate picking, damn, that's really hard. And it even brought me as well to my limits. I still have to work this a lot. I also came close to, I don't know, I would say 80% of the tempo with a lot of precision, but everything faster than that, no, I totally failed and screwed up. But sweeping those arpeggios to get the tempo is so much easier. Sweeping, absolutely no problem. Like Petrucci is doing it live, and how I think like Petrucci is doing it on the record. This is definitely not alternate picked. Sometimes you can hear the noise that the pick is doing when it comes to sweeping, and he's not able to play it live. And either way, it's sweeped or it's extremely edited. I don't know. If you have any proof, let me know in the comments, but I truly don't believe that this is alternate pick. No. Again, when it comes to the fast part, sweeping was so much easier. But practicing this section with sweeping slow was a pain in the ass because it was really hard to get the hand synchronization and the control over the subdivision correctly in my right hand. I was always a little bit too fast, a little bit too slow, or my left hand was always a little bit too fast. The hand synchronization totally fell off when it was on a slower, more medium tempo, or there it was a little bit more obvious. So there I had to put in more work to get the timing right and the tempo right and the hand synchronization right on more medium kind of tempos. But does this mean now that I never use economy picking or try to avoid using economy picking? No, not at all. There are certain situations where for me economy picking is the way to go. I use it in certain situations, like for example when you want to go in one direction over more than one string. Like for example this stretch pentatonic lick here. There, it's so much easier to play this fluent with economy picking instead of using alternate picking. But other arpeggio sections where it's a little bit more complex, where you have to change a little bit more between even number of note per string and an uneven number of note per string, like for example the famous Glasgow Kiss intro. There, of course, I use alternate picking because there it gives me much more control over what I'm doing here. So I use economy picking, but mostly more in an arpeggio kind of way, or when I want to mix up arpeggios with scale playing, but not in an only true kind of scale situation. Or let me rephrase it. I would rather practice my alternate picking in a true scale kind of situation than trying to play it with economy picking, because in the first place it on the paper looks easier. But so now what would I recommend to you? I mean, there are really extremely talented guitar players out there who can control both kind of techniques perfectly, like the guys that I showed in my hilarious intro, Spiro Duzias, Steven Taranto, Rafael Trujillo, or even people like Rick Graham. But we are maybe not these guys. I'm not on the level like these guys, and I guess most of my viewers too, because yeah, we are just humans. So what would I recommend to you? I would recommend to you to, if you want to use economy picking for a musical purpose, then go ahead, do it. Practice the hell out of it. It is a really useful technique. I'm not speaking about the sound kind of differences here, because of course there is a different sound to a certain lick played with economy picking instead of alternate picking, but the difference is not too much, so it's just a side note. But if you want to use economy picking because your alternate picking is not good enough, and it is an excuse to use economy picking instead of alternate picking, I would rather recommend work on your alternate picking. There are so much more situations in our guitar playing where alternate picking is the way. Rhythm guitar, doesn't matter if funk or metal or whatnot. Lead guitar, there also doesn't matter if metal genre, shredding or jazz or whatnot. The awareness that you gained over your right hand is crucial, and it's so helpful for you as a guitar player. So rather work on your alternate picking up to a certain point where you would say, okay, now my alternate picking is better than I would say last year, and now I gained much more control and awareness about my right hand. And if you need help for this kind of journey, I only can recommend to you the ZEN of Speed Picking, my big online picking course. You can find link in the description. Get it now, because till the 7th of November there's a discount on it. After the 7th of November the price will go up, so I will recommend to get it now, link in the description. And after this learning and the experience that you gained while working on your alternate picking, I would recommend to experiment with economy picking. It is a worthwhile technique, it is a useful technique, but I would say that it's not so important for your general guitar playing than alternate picking. There are two videos out there that I would love to recommend from other YouTubers. One is from Ben Eller for all my English speaking guys. He made a really good video about alternate picking versus economy picking. And the other one for my German speaking viewers, because as I'm German, there are a lot of German viewers out there. So grüß Gott, Gude, hallo, wie geht's? Schaut euch das Video vom lieben Bernd Kilz an. Der Bernd hat auch ein super Video über alternate picking gegen economy picking gemacht. And now back to English. So much for my little video why I prefer working on alternate picking instead of my economy picking. I hope you liked this video. I hope I'm going to see you in my next video. Subscribe to this channel, leave a like, leave a comment. Cheers and stay progress. Goodbye.